If you've been wondering whether dating is harder than it used to be, I'm here to tell you, yes, you're not imagining things. It's not just that you're older, pickier, or doomed to attract commitment phobes. The truth is, dating today has a unique set of challenges, most of which are designed to keep you swiping, second guessing, and emotionally confused. But don't panic. Today, we're going to break down why dating feels so hard right now. It's not just you, what emotional availability really means, and what you can do to shift how you date so you stop wasting time. So stay tuned. Oh my gosh, welcome back to the last episode of season 7. And my seasons are a year long. So guess what? Wow. 7 years. We are ending 7 years and beginning 8 years soon. I am going to take a couple weeks off as I do every summer. And by the time you're hearing this, it'll be summer. And there you go. So any questions you have, please send them in to abby@abbymedcalf.com. You can find that on my website on the Let's Connect page. I would love to hear from you and hear what you'd like to have me cover in the future. This is from my online community, the One Love Collective. This was been asked in a bunch of different ways. And I'm always talking to people. I'm at the grocery store talking to people. I'm everywhere talking to people. And my clients and dating is feeling exhausting for people. So I want to cover it. So let's start at the beginning. From what I can tell from my personal experience and from the research is that, and when I say my personal experience, I'm not dating right now, but my personal experience with my clients and friends, et cetera, that there are really 5 main reasons. I'm going to kind of distill it down to why dating feels hard right now. Okay. To me, there's 5 big ones. One is that the paradox of choice is real. If you've never read that book, The Paradox of Choice by Barry Schwartz, it's a famous book. Why more is the paradox of choice. Why more is less, I think is the subtitle. And there's a lot of research in there, and we've had even more since that book came out. The research really shows that at the end of the day, that the more options we have, the harder it is to make a decision. And the more we regret whatever decision we do make. Okay, how do you like that? So the more choices you have, the more you'll regret a decision too. It's not even just harder to make it, but you'll regret what you did. It's crazy. So, right? Recipe for disaster when it comes to dating, I would say. It used to be that, and when I say it used to be, it wasn't that long ago, that you'd meet a few people in your lifetime and you choose from those, right? Your parents would have some friends, maybe a neighbor. You'd meet someone in high school or maybe in college if you went, or at your job early on. And that was kind of it. But now, you've got apps offering thousands of profiles at your fingertips. So getting overwhelmed is just so easy. We also have more travel. We have people we know in different places. It's just people switch jobs more often than they used to back in the day, right? So it's so different now, that the landscape for dating. And of course, because women are now in the workforce and we can support ourselves, we're not desperate to date in the way we used to be, because our financial security, our very security was based on our ability to marry. And that's not so true anymore in a lot of parts of the world. So, but it's really easy to get overwhelmed with so many choices, so many people you can choose from. So instead of making thoughtful choices, we fall into what we psychologists call decision fatigue, which really means that our ability to make sound decisions deteriorates when we're faced with too many options. So, I think people ghost sometimes, not just because they're cruel necessarily, although it's not nice to do, but because there are too many options. Something better out there. They go on 3 great dates, right? And still wonder if the one is a scroll away. And again, it used to be, if you only had 2 people to choose from in the world or whatever, so few people came across your path. If you had a few great dates, you were like, this is my person, The second big reason I see is that, dating apps are really designed for dopamine, not connection. Just want to say that. So, apps like, everything from Tinder to Bumble, they're built on what's called variable ratio reinforcement. And that's the same behavioral principle that makes slot machines addictive. You swipe and occasionally you get a match, and that match might message, and that message might lead to a date. But the unpredictable nature of the reward keeps you hooked. And this process spikes dopamine, not oxytocin. Oxytocin is that nice bonding hormone. That's the good one that makes us bond. No, it spikes dopamine, the feel-good, the pleasure hormone. So we feel excitement, but not connection necessarily. And what's worse is what I find with people is that they conflate that chemical buzz with compatibility. You conflate, meaning you put those two together and they don't go together. You put two variables together that don't go together. So you get this sort of, there's a chemical buzz going on, and then you think, ooh, that person I'm really compatible with. No. So that results in you chasing sparks, not substance, right? I say that a lot to my clients. You're chasing a spark, not substance in the relationship. So, you might match with someone, you could chat for days, but they cancel your first date last minute with a vague excuse. Have you had this? Do you know what I'm talking about? So your brain still craves the high of what could have been, even though the reality is someone who is giving you inconsistent effort. So it's very easy to put up with bullshit instead of seeing it as a red flag. I know. The third problem I see a lot is that, how do I want to say this lovingly? Attachment wounds are loud. That's how I want to say that. Right now, okay, well, I've discussed attachment theory quite a bit. I have episodes on it. I will link to them. And newer research really in the last 5 years is really helping explain why we repeat painful dating patterns, okay? Because what has been found, I'm out there doing research. I'm not, okay? I just know what to read. In modern dating, avoidant attachers are overrepresented, especially on the apps, because people who are more, I'm not going to go all into attachment styles right now. Go back and listen to those episodes. So important to know what you are, who you are, where you come from. But, basically there's secure attachment and there's insecure attachment, and that we get because of our caregiving and when we were babies and blah, blah, blah. And in the insecure styles, the two main types are avoidant and anxious. And anxious people tend to be overrepresented. Avoidant people tend to be overrepresented on the apps from what they can tell. They've done a lot of research, right? Match.com has been working with Helen Fisher. She's the biological anthropologist I quote a lot. She's freaking brilliant. Anyway, there's a lot of research, they're trying to figure out what works and what doesn't. And so avoidant people prefer casual interactions that don't demand vulnerability. And I can say this with love because I am a recovering avoidant, as you all know if you listen to my stuff. So someone with a more avoidant attachment style might disappear when the connection deepens. Okay, I know. Or they might keep you in relationship limbo longer. Does this all sound, I know, familiar? And the research is also showing that people who have a more anxious attachment style often mistake that inconsistency for excitement. So they're drawn to emotionally unavailable people because unpredictability activates the nervous system in a way that feels familiar or even safe. I know. I love you. I know. I hear you. You right now you're going, holy crap. An anxiously attached person might feel butterflies because someone's hot and cold. That's not chemistry. It's nervous system dysregulation masquerading as romance. I know. I could drop the mic right here, couldn't I? I hope right from here. Fourth reason is we're communicating more but connecting less, right? There was a study I read from 2023, like a really recent study, which found, again, I'll link to all this, right? Which found that while digital communication has skyrocketed, interpersonal satisfaction has not. So we're texting, we're DMing, we're voice noting at all hours, but often in ways that avoid depth. I know, real intimacy. True, when I say intimacy, I'm not talking about sex, I'm talking about emotional closeness. Real intimacy requires presence, it requires tone, vulnerability, all the things that are hard to access in a stream of emojis, right? In a WYD, right? What are you doing? Those messages, no, you're not going to get those things. So someone saying like I'm bad at texting is sometimes code for I'm not invested enough to be consistent. And when we start relationships with this foundation, emotional safety is shaky from the start, right? Or you might be having deep late night text conversations, but they never want to talk on the phone or plan a real date. That's not intimacy, it's convenience. It is people who, again, are more avoidantly attached, love just texting. What a great way to go, right? I know. So, and number 5 is there's a lot of post-pandemic dating fatigue is what I want to say, okay? Because I've been in this thing. the COVID-19 pandemic rewired, I believe, and I would say there's a lot of research to back me up on this, how we relate to ourselves and other people. So some people came out of the emerged from isolation with like a hunger for real partnership, for real connection. Others came out of the pandemic, came out of isolation, more anxious, more avoidant, more hesitant to invest emotionally. And I think a lot of people became conflict avoidant to a pathological level. I've been doing this 40 years, people. The conflict avoidance it's pathological. It's at a level, to me, in business, personal, everywhere, that is so problematic, I can't even, okay? Can't even. A lot of people experienced increased loneliness and social anxiety during that lockdown, which has made vulnerability feel more dangerous than ever. That is a problem. I read one survey, I think it was from Match.com. I'll link to it in the show notes and in the blog and under the video. If you're watching on YouTube, like and subscribe. I'm pretty sure it was from 2022. It's from Match.com. And it said, and it was that over 70% of singles, over 70% said they felt burned out by dating, right? So emotional availability becomes a really scarce commodity, not because people don't want to connect, but because I think so many people are still healing. Okay? Yeah. So let's talk about what emotional availability actually means. Like what are you talking about, Abby? Give me what you're talking about. And because the term I think gets thrown around a lot, so I think it gets lost in the sauce. So I always want to be precise with what we're talking about and be very clear on definitions. Emotionally available people can name and regulate their own emotions. Okay. This doesn't mean like they're Zen monks, but it means that they know what they're feeling and don't immediately lash out or shut down. It doesn't mean they've never done that, but they do it very rarely. Emotionally available people are open to understanding your experience, even when they disagree. They're consistent in what they say and do. They can tolerate emotional discomfort. They can stay present. They're self-reflective. They're very willing to own their part. They're willing to work through conflict. Okay? That's emotionally available people. Emotionally unavailable people, they might talk about feelings, but they avoid true vulnerability. Like they might not share their fears or their needs, that kind of thing. They often go silent. They make excuses. They withdraw when emotions get high, when the stakes start to rise, right? Emotionally unavailable people, they chase novelty. They chase the newness, and then they disappear when things get too real. Oh, they blame their exes, bad luck, their busy schedule, instead of sort of owning their behavior, right? So someone might tell you, I'm not ready for a relationship right now, but they want to sleep together. They text you every day. They want to get emotional support. Yeah, but they're not ready for a relationship? Huh? That's emotional unavailability dressed up as being honest, quote unquote. Okay? That's what that is. Are you picking up what I'm laying down here? And so, by the way, so in my, I've been trying to really create great free downloads for you that would go with each episode and be something that you could really like further your learning. And the one I created for this is, it's free, of course, emotional availability assessment. Okay. So in it, what I did was you'll take like a short quiz to assess your own emotional availability as well as the person you're dating. And so, we're not supposed to diagnose other people and, get all up in their heads. I know that, but this will give you a basic idea of maybe some things that have been a blind spot for you or you haven't seen. So, and as always, if you download anything from me, you will get put on my love letter list. And all that means, I promise, I'm not going to try to sell you any. That's not what I do. You will get on it's called Love Bites, twice a month. You will get an email from me with my love letter, which I just call it a love bite. And it's just something to make you think. It's short. You can read it in 5 minutes to help you think different, educate you. I don't know. If you like the podcast, you'll love the love letter, I think. If you love the love letter and want to get it every week, you can pay. But if you don't have to and nothing will happen. And if you want to unsubscribe, go ahead. Okay. So I'm just being 100% transparent what happens. That's the only thing that happens. I don't sell your information. There's tens of thousands of people on that list. You're safe. I don't try to sell you something every week. I don't do anything except that. Okay. All right. Because I love you and I'm trying to help. So let's talk about how to spot the green flags, the emotional availability. So these are just signs that someone's, I think, emotionally available that you can look out for. One is that they follow through. They don't leave you wondering. If they say they'll call, they call. If they're late, they tell you. You are not playing detective. There's no detectiveness. They're very clear. There's real curiosity. They ask meaningful questions and generally want to understand your world. They don't just nod through your answers. They remember, they follow up, maybe on the second date, maybe on the first date, you mentioned that you were having trouble at work with someone. On the second date, they're like, hey, how did that ever go with, Jake at work? Whatever happened with that? They're asking. Yeah, that's emotional availability. They have emotional courage. They're willing to talk about tough stuff, including how they feel about their ex, why their last relationship ended, what scares them in love. They're willing to go there. I know, it's so great. There's boundary respect. If you say you need to slow down or aren't ready for something, they don't guilt you. They don't push. They meet you where you are. I shared on social media a while ago that I had a client who had told she was going out on I think it was like kind of a fourth date with a guy. She liked him. And she had said before when they were, talking, she said, hey, they were going out like on a Wednesday night. She said, that sounds great, but I have to leave. I can't stay out late. I've got to leave by 10 o'clock. I have an early morning. And actually, she said by 9:30. She said, I have to leave by 9:30. I have an early morning. And they were meeting at like 7 or 6:30. So they had hours. And she said, I'm just letting you know. To make a long story short, at the date, he kept pushing. He's like, oh, and they were having a good time. She's like, we were having a good time, but he was pushing and saying things like, oh, can't you stay a little longer? And, why not? We're having such a good time. And then, so she stayed later than she wanted to. That's on her, by the way. I don't blame him, but she stayed later than she wanted to. Then she was getting a lift to get home, a Uber kind of thing to get home. And he was like, oh, let me drive you. I'm not an axe murderer. We've been on 4 dates, whatever. And she was like, no, I'll grab a lift. It's okay. Because she just felt like she just wanted to get herself home. And he was like, no, let me do it. And he pushed and she said yes. Then they get to her place and she says goodnight. And he's like, oh, let me walk you to the door. I'd be so rude not to walk you to the door. And she's like, no, I'm okay. And he's like, no, I insist. Walks her to the door. Then they get to the door and he says, oh, you know what? I have to go to the bathroom. Can I just jump inside for a minute? Right. And again, she's fine. He didn't try anything, whatever. But here she keeps saying no. And she said she had to actually he wanted to like stay for a drink. He said, why don't I hang out for a little bit? You can get ready for bed. We'll just keep talking. She's like, go home. You need to leave. And she said she had to kind of push him out the door. The next day. So first of all, she kept saying boundaries and he kept trampling them. Right. Now, again, she allowed him to. This is on her, not him. But she kept saying yes when she wanted to say no. And she was teaching him that, he didn't have to respect her boundaries. And, again, a person who was supportive would have been like, oh my gosh, it's almost 9:30. I know you have to get going, right? Would you like me to drive you home? It could be quicker. We could spend a little more time together on the way home. That could have been cool. And then said goodnight, not tried to come in, not tried anything else, said, hey, let me go to the bathroom first at the restaurant, all the things. And the next day, by the way, they were talking and he starts gaslighting her. He starts with the, you women say you want to be close. And then, here we are having a great time. We're getting close. And then you rush me along. You push me out of your apartment. You say you want something and you really don't. And she was questioning herself. Again, good thing she's in therapy, right? But do you see where this all goes? And I did a thing on micro gaslighting that I did an episode on that probably came out last week. If you want to listen to that, where we talk about this kind of stuff, because that's gaslighting. It's micro gaslighting, but it's gaslighting. Even said she was a little anal. God, you can't have one night where you didn't get great sleep, because we're having such a good time, this kind of stuff. It was so bad. Those are all red flags, all of it, every single second of it. And again, I hold my client responsible, not this guy. Okay, it's not his fault. She was allowing it. So I want to be clear on that too. All right, but let's talk about other green flags. Healthy pacing. They're not trying to fast forward into love or, they're not trying to keep things vague forever. They're really sort of co-creating a rhythm with you, right? Okay. So here's what you can do differently. You cannot control who's on the apps or how flaky someone is or, being such a detective that you can figure out from every profile who's going to be okay and who's not. But you can absolutely shift your own patterns. Most importantly, you can stop obsessing over whether they like you. The question is, do you like you when you're around them, right? So the first thing you can do is shift your internal question. If your brain, again, is constantly asking, do they like me? You're in performative mode. You're molding yourself to be likable rather than assessing whether this person fits your needs, your values, your emotional rhythm. So you want to flip it. How do I feel when I'm with them? Do I feel safe and respected? Am I shrinking or second guessing myself? And I also want you to think of how you feel when you're away from them. Are you second guessing yourself? Do you get insecure? Are you anxious? Or are you serene and feel great? Like what is it that you feel when you're with them and what is it you feel when you're away from them? When you focus on your own internal experience instead of managing theirs, you will start showing up as yourself or authentically, as we like to say, right? And that's when real connection becomes possible. You can't do it without it. All right. Number 2 is regulate before you relate. Isn't that cute that I came up with that? Regulate before you relate. Your nervous system is really your best dating coach if you want to come down to it. If you're dysregulated, if you are anxious, overly excited, reactive, or checked out, whatever, you'll miss the red flags or, chase unhealthy behavior, chaos, because it feels familiar. You might not like it, but you know it. So before you reach out to someone or respond to a text, pause, breathe. Am I grounded right now? How am I doing right now? So you really want to practice, you want to have practices in your life consistently, like breath work, body scans, just naming your emotions. I'm feeling lonely. I'm feeling impulsive. It gives you a beat to respond instead of react, right? You want to act, not react. Think of it as nervous system hygiene for lack. I like that. Ooh, nervous system hygiene. Someone write that down. Remind me I said that. Dating from that place of regulation, of confidence, of clarity really protects your peace. So you have to work on that, again, all the time. And I have many episodes. I will link to them on self-regulation, on managing your emotions, all of it. So you can be doing those things consistently so you don't get triggered and not notice the red flags, okay? Or act in a way that you later regret when you're dating. Number 3 is to remember something I said earlier, which is that chemistry isn't compatibility. Butterflies aren't a goal. They are not your friend. That intense spark might be your trauma talking, by the way. Our nervous systems often recognize old wounds as attraction. I'm going to say that again. Our nervous systems often recognize old hurts as attraction. But real compatibility feels like calm curiosity. That's how it feels. Not heart-pounding obsession. There's some trauma bonding there and you don't realize it, I would say, in those moments. And I have a whole episode on trauma bonding, and I would highly suggest you listen to it if you've had any trouble with dating. But if I asked you why you like this person, this is what I usually use with my clients. That's how I find out if they're trauma bonding. I'll say, why do you like this person? You should be able to come up with specific, clear responses. Oh, she's really kind. I can tell she's such a good listener. She's nodding her head. She repeats back things I've said. She asks me questions later about things I've mentioned, right? He always has my back. I like that he's able to state his needs while he's also asking about mine. See how specific that is? He's really kind. He's so generous when we're with people. I notice how he is with waiters and waitresses. There's a real generosity of spirit. He's really kind to people when they're, no matter who they are. If they're taking our tickets at a movie theater, or do people go to the movies? Okay. If it's our waiter coming up to ask if we want more water, there's always an attentiveness about him that I really appreciate. He doesn't think anyone's beneath him. He treats everyone equally. Do you hear how this is? If your responses are more vague, and here's what I've had clients, I've just never felt this way before. There's just something about them that when you say that, don't say that to me. My stomach gets upset. I get a headache. I get upset. No, that is trauma bonding. They're just so charismatic. There's just something about them. There just was this thing we had right away. Oh my God, run, don't walk the other way. That I will almost guarantee you is trauma bonding. I know some of you right now. I'm not judging. I'm trying to say with love that you need to look at this. What I always tell people is, write a list. If you wrote a list of your perfect human, like here's my dream person, nowhere on there would it say there's just something. Nowhere on there would it say there's just something about them. I don't even think you'd put down that they're charismatic. I think you would put that as a red flag. So think about it. What do you put on a list of your perfect? There's someone who listens really well. They share. They have high emotional intelligence. They're self-aware. They're mindful. They fight fair. We can disagree, but they always have my back, right? There's a lot of specifics I hope you would write down that aren't, there's just something. Yeah, I know. Think about it. Okay, go listen to that trauma bonding episode if any of this is like ringing too close to home. I want you to ask yourself, do I feel more like myself with this person or less like myself? Do I feel inspired to grow or constantly unsettled and uncertain? Okay. Uncertainty is the worst. Confused. I'm so confused. I shared this. I think I shared this on the last podcast. I shared it somewhere. I saw a creator say this on social media. It was a man, and he said, I hear women and they're dating. He said, if you feel like you're confused all the time, if you say, I'm confused because, he says he likes me, but then he doesn't call or whatever, change that out with I'm turned off. Anytime you say I'm confused, say I'm turned off. It's very powerful when you do that. I know. There you go. Yeah. So if your connection feels exciting, but also confusing, again, it's likely a red flag dressed as romance. That's what I would tell you. I know. I'm sorry. I love you. You know me. I'm always going to be very direct about things. Number 4 is ask deeper, more revealing questions. So I want you to move beyond favorite movies and job titles. I want you to really, hey, what's something you've worked through that made you stronger? Or what do you need when you're having a hard day? their answers are going to tell you more than any profile, any dating profile ever would, or any, what's your, even like, well, I like what's your favorite vacation. That tells you a lot. It's again, not about rapid fire intimacy. It's about emotional fluency. How self-aware are they? Can they name feelings? Can they reflect on past relationships or talk about boundaries? That's what you need. And don't just ask them like good questions, right? Ask them all, and ask yourself too. Ask yourself too, after a date, maybe journal, what did I learn about me? Did I feel energized or enervated or drained? Did I feel I could be honest, right? I have a lot of great, worksheets and journaling prompts and all kinds of things for this episode, like I've been doing, that are going to my online community, my One Love Collective. And I'm going to also create, I'm thinking, I'm going to create a list of questions to ask when you're dating, like things to ask at different, maybe even at different, like dates 1 and 2, you'd ask different things you'd ask at dates 3 or 4. So I'm going to add that to this so for the people and again, if you want to buy the bundle, which is $8 with all the things that all the different tiers in my One Love Collective get, it's $8, and I'm going to add that in there. I'll list all the things at the end. So if you want to hear, listen till the end. And starting actually by the time season 8 comes out, I'll have shifted. Right now we're on Patreon, my One Love Collective. We're going to be switching to Substack, and I'm going to be making a flat rate of $9 for everybody. So it's going to be $9 to join. You get live Q&As with me. You get ad-free podcasts. You get all the handouts, all the stuff, all the master classes that go with every single episode, all that for $9 a month, plus the community, which is amazing, of support. So, and I'm in there a lot because I love it in there. But anyway, but you don't have to join the community if you don't want to. You can always buy the bundles for $8, one at a time. Okay. So I'll list them all at the end. So stay tuned. And number 5, I would say, is to, really change how you are with all this dating, to really have a different experience out there, is to practice some radical self-honesty. I say with love, 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 because I love you. It is so easy to get swept up in the potential of someone. But part of dating well is getting honest about what you're tolerating now. Are you making excuses for their inconsistency? I have a lot of single people in my practice, men and women, do this, okay? And I'm like, stop dating for potential. Are you telling yourself you're okay with casual when you really want commitment? Don't judge yourself. Just notice. It's fine. Whatever you want is fine with me. I'm not the one going home with you. But know what it is. Self-awareness is your superpower. Okay? Really, really important. Another tip I would give you, I'm going to give you some bonus tips here, is to keep a connection journal. I've had a lot of clients do this. It's very effective. And it's really one of my favorite tools. So after each interaction, so even a little texting thing, I would jot down how you felt before, during, and after. Okay? And over time, you will see patterns emerge. You'll start to notice like who brings peace, who triggers anxiety, who leaves you wondering what you did wrong. It's a great way to get data. All right. I'm also going to say this. You need to remember that you're the prize. Dating isn't about getting picked. It's about choosing someone who's a match for you, for your wholeness, not your loneliness. Oh, that was good. What did I just say? That was good. It is about choosing someone who's a match for your wholeness, not your loneliness. When you're rooted in your self-worth, your standards shift. You don't chase, you choose. So make sure you're there. Okay. I think that's everything I want to say. So I'm going to wrap up. I like to wrap up. So dating, yes, it's harder now than ever. But you're not powerless. Dating feels harder because it is harder, but also because our internal compasses, I think, need some recalibration. We've been taught to chase attraction over alignment, right? We've been taught to chase someone's performance, who they are, they're 6 foot this and they're this 100 pounds, or they're an MBA, or they're whatever. We've been taught to chase performance over presence. it's happened a lot. And you need to tune into your own clarity. You need to slow down your nervous system and stop mistaking anxiety for affection. You can start showing up differently right this minute. Okay. I don't want to say anymore. I think that was enough. All right. Definitely come get your emotional availability assessment. And if you want to hear about all the things in the masterclass that go with this episode, if dating is hard for you, if this has been just dating the wrong people, you feel like your picker's broken, whatever, I'm going to strongly encourage you to spend the $8 and to get all the bundle that's today. But just take a listen now, see if it feels like something that would be helpful to you. And if not, you don't need to, or you can think of maybe about joining our community because it's really great. So tier 1, which is right now my inner circle. It's the last time I'll be saying this. You're going to get journaling prompts, of course, to help you dig deeper on this. You're going to be getting conversation starters that reveal emotional availability or not. Okay. Like I promised before, like some scripts, some things you can say, some conversation starters. Tier 2, which is my love accelerator, you're going to get everything in tier 1 plus a boundary clarity worksheet, what you're available for and what you're not, really getting clear on that. I'm going to do a guided visualization again. And when dating feels like rejection. Yep. We're going to have a whole thing about when dating feels like rejection. And then tier 3, which is my VIP Love Lab, you're going to get a connection journal template, kind of like what I talked about before about doing a journal, but you're going to get a quiz. Are you dating from self-worth or self-doubt to really help you get clear about where you're coming from? And I have a worksheet on reframing chemistry. Is it excitement or emotional safety? Again, just to help you do that. Okay. So that is everything for today. Oh my gosh, ending season 7. Who I never would have thought 7 years ago that I would still be sitting here doing this with so many of you. We've grown so big over the years and I'm so grateful for it. I love you so much. Thank you for being here with me. Thank you for doing this. Please share the podcast with people you think it would help. Please, I don't know. Please know I love you and that I'm really grateful for our connection. How's that? All right. Have an amazing week. And I'll speak to you after a much deserved break and vacation. And we'll get back together and have an amazing season 8. All right. Mwah. Have a great week.